Welcome back to Toast, and today is a fucking exciting episode because this is a type of episode and this is a type of an adventure that you want to do. And trust me, because when you hear it, you're going to say, we need to fucking go, we need to do it. El Chalten. Getting to El Chalten, you see it immediately from a distance. Mount Fitzroy is a mountain that sticks out like a jagged piece, even outside of all of the fucking peaks that you see in that whole area. You can see it from a mile away and you're staring at it as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you get to this tiny town that's just at the foothills. I got to El Chalten. I found a place to volunteer because I wanted to do this hike that is insane. It's a 4-day hike and it goes over one of the windiest places in Patagonia. It's called Paso del Viento. It's called Wind's Pass, and it's not a place that you want to go to unless you're masochistic. And if you're a backpacker, you're masochistic. Trust me. So I wanted to plan it, but you need to know about the wind because in Patagonia, the wind is always very insane. It is not normal wind. It's not even heavy wind. Picture that, double it. 120 kilometers per hour is normal, and that's in the town. That's not at the pass. So you need to be mindful about it, and you need 4 days to do this hike. So you need to look at how, this kind of looks in a forecast, even though it's not always going to be 100% accurate. Embarking on this hike took a very long time because I was waiting for 4-day period. I kind of wanted to go with a group, but it's hard to find a group because everybody's going to see Fitzroy because that's the iconic, mountain in that area. And so everybody's going, and you want to go to Fitzroy, I want to go to Fitzroy, everybody wants to go to Fitzroy, but I hiked Fitzroy like 6 times with some people who were coming to the hostels and I was sick of it. And finally, I found some group, some friends that came from another place and rejoined me there, and we all went on this 4-day journey together. And going with a group is always better, not just because it's safer, but because these are the people who help make the memories for you, right? You have such better memories if you're going with a group and you can tell some jokes and you're camping in a tent with, somebody that you've just been grueling up and down mountains with all day. And, when you get that spaghetti or you get that, rice and lentils at the end of the day. And I, personally brought weed with us. I brought a couple joints to smoke when we were finished. And those were great things to have because you can enjoy them with the people that you're with. And that's not something that you can do alone. So we set out, and the first day is just really, plowing through some mountains and not really getting that great of sights. It's the second day that you really need to cross a glacier, okay? I'm talking about actually walking on a glacier with your boots, and this thing is moving and you can hear it below you, and every single aspect, it sounds like there's a running river below you, and the whole thing makes these big cracks and noises, and I found a Gandalf stick to just kind of help me walk across, and it was great. And it was great because I was with people and we had to navigate it. And even though we're not supposed to go on the glacier, you're supposed to touch it a little bit, but we went pretty deep in just to really get that feeling of how massive and immense a glacier is, because it's thousands of square kilometers of just ice and water, just moving itself, churning itself, which is insane. Calvin, rather. And when we got to Paso del Viento, which is on the second day, eventually we needed to cross a river. You have to tie yourself in with a harness. This is not a low fucking budget hike. You need to bring gear. You need to bring a carabiner. You need to strap yourself into this steel thing and hang with your backpack or hang separate from your backpack. And you need to go upside down and backwards and cross this river because it's too big and the current's too fast that if you try to do it without it, you will literally be taken away and most likely die. And I'm sure you don't want to die, so you have to get the gear. And so we did that, and as a group, it's amazing. You get fucking great photos. You see people who go through different issues, need to go back to the start point, set up their whole thing differently. And one of my favorite things about that was, just the shots that you get, the pictures that you get. Eventually, we're getting closer to Paso del Viento. We are walking up there, and it's been uphill all morning. And we got up bright and early, and it was getting windier and windier and windier. And it was looking pretty sketchy, and we knew that it was going to be pretty sketchy, but we had to pass by a certain time. And at the campsites, you meet people that are there and you meet guides, and I speak Spanish. So I got the whole insight of by the satellite telephone sent down to download what's going on. When do we need to pass by it? For it to be safe, because wind was picking up and we had to make sure that was, not going to fucking shoot us off the mountain. Do you want to be shot off a mountain? I don't. So we got to Paso del Viento. We took these sick pictures, but Paso del Viento is so much more than just a windy pass. And anybody who's hiked knows that passes are always the highest points of mountains, so they're the hardest things to get to. But once you're there, it's usually kind of downhill. So you're very happy. That's like the hardest part of your day. But when you get to Paso del Viento, you are looking at the biggest glacier in the entire continent of North America. It is the biggest glacier that is outside of Antarctica. I'm talking about everywhere you look, it is one big motherfucking block of ice as far as your eye can see. The next mountains look like they're literally 1,000 kilometers away, and it's nothing but you and the glacier there, and you have that whole moment to yourself, and it's fucking beautiful to be able to be there with the wind blowing in your face at over 100 kilometers per hour and using this stick to just ground yourself as much as possible, to take sick pictures and just really enjoy the moment. No matter how tired, exhausted you are, you still whip out those nasty crackers that have been in your bag, and you guys all have a snack, and it was just you have to enjoy the fact that, you know, hardships pay. And I've been saying that in all of my, you know, episodes. That's one of the things with Paso del Viento, that we all enjoyed it, no matter how tired and sweaty we were, no matter how many people, you know, were trying to give up halfway through, how many times we lost the path. We got there and we went down and we got to the second place to camp. And now, I wasn't joking when I said 120 kilometer per hour winds, because that's what we were facing. Okay, we were in the middle of that, and then we had to go down. We had to get to our campsite, and I don't know if you've ever set up a tent in 120 kilometer per hour winds, but you don't want to fucking do it. So I decided, because there was a hut at that one, that I was just going to wait for everybody to finish their dinners, and I was just going to put my mat on the floor, and I was going to sleep in this hut. Lo and behold, throughout the night, people's tents were collapsing. More and more people were coming inside that little shelter, and it wasn't very big. You know, we were all basically cuddling together for warmth because tents were collapsing outside. And eventually, you know, we woke up, we continued the hike, and day 3 has to be like one of the most beautiful days as well, because not only are you walking alongside this massive glacier that I just told you about, but you're also climbing up to the next pass, which is the last pass of that hike, which is going to then bring you down to the mouth of this glacier. So you see icebergs. And I'm not talking about like a small piece of ice. I'm talking about literally a thing bigger than whatever building you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast is, because these are like 10 stories tall pieces of ice detaching from glaciers in real time, sometimes rolling over. And you get to see that all from this pass, from up high, and they look so small. And every step that you're going down, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, until at some point you get to the beach, which is where campsite number 3 is, or if you choose to camp there, which is obviously what we fucking did, because why wouldn't you? And we just camped next to these massive icebergs, and you can't really fathom or explain or show in any picture, because you don't have anything to like put next to it. But you could put the biggest yacht you've never seen right next to it. You put the Titanic next to it, and you could tell that ice versus the Titanic, we know who's going to win. We know who won, and they'll win every single time. When we finished the 3rd day, we all got up because we wanted to take glacier pictures at, you know, sunrise with that, you know, golden hour. We had, the sky was on fire. The clouds were just beaming through with light. We had some icebergs flipping and everything. It was absolutely beautiful. And when we got back to the tent, I had it. You know, the one of the guides that we met, and one of the people that I kept talking to was this guide who kept having all of these stories. She was a guide for Acatenango. And if you don't know Acatenango, that's the highest peak in all of America, right? Which is like 7,000 meters. And she was telling stories about how, you know, she's camped in worse weather. She was fine sleeping in her tent. She pees in the water bottle while she's sleeping, and she just puts it to her feet, and she's like, it keeps me nice and warm. These are insane stories that you meet by travelers, especially the guides. So you guys, if you're going on hikes, if you hire a guide, talk to them, ask them questions, ask them about their crazy stories, because she had some pretty wild ones. Now, day 4 of the hike, I am tired of walking. My legs hurt, everything hurts. And the guide told us that it was supposed to rain, like it was going to downpour, and I had dealt with enough downpour in Patagonia. I just wanted to get back to my hostel where my friends were, where my bed was, like where I was just going to eat, you know, beautiful fucking Argentinian barbecue. If you go to Argentina, have the barbecue. Okay, I'm vegetarian and I cheated for that shit. And it was worth it every single second. Now, I decided that I was running. The issue was, remember when I told you had to cross that river with this carabiner? You needed a steel carabiner. You needed that clip when you're rock climbing. That's what a carabiner is. You need to clip yourself in, but you needed a steel one because the wire is made out of steel. And the second river that you need to use that on, which is on the last day, is twice as long. And it's twice as dangerous for that same reason. I didn't have a steel carabiner because we were kind of sharing it and sending it and pulling the rope so that we can all use one. But I did have another one, an aluminum or aluminium one. And that was fucking crazy because I decided to just abandon my friends and just run home. I was like, I'm going to literally jog for 2 hours until I get home. And I kind of forgot about the river crossing. And to be honest, when I got there was no way that I was going to wait multiple hours for my friends who were just going to walk and not run to catch up to me, because they didn't even leave when I left. I left at 5 a.m. So I just strapped myself in with this carabiner, and it was starting to rain, and I was soaked, and I was cold, and I just started going. And halfway through, I wanted to give up. I was hanging over a river with water flowing and rocks below, and if I fall, I'm dead. Absolute, probably death on impact, but if not, that river's taking me to God knows where, and nobody's going to know that I'm in it because I'm not with people. Another reason to go with a group. And I couldn't do it. And I didn't know what to do. So I took off my gloves mid thing and I let this aluminum thing that was literally being shed as like pieces of metal were falling in my eyes. I let it hold my entire weight with my legs kind of wrapped around. And I took my gloves off to just get a better grip. And even though it was much colder, I got a better grip and I was able to move faster. And lo and behold, I managed to cross the river with my heart racing. And I was like convinced that I was going to die, and I hated myself, and I said, this, like, you're an idiot, I can't believe you were so irresponsible, but I did it, I got across, and I was stoked, and I was high on life, and I started running, and I ran all the way back to El Chalten, where there was beer, weed, and food waiting for me. What I'm trying to say is, in El Chalten, go do this hike. It's called La Vuelta de Huemul, which is a type of animal. It's kind of like a deer that you see in Patagonia. It's Patagonia's deer, and I've seen a few of them in that hike and in that area of El Chalten, and some of the hikes and lesser known hikes that I was doing because I stayed there for a whole month, right? El Chalten was my base. I decided to volunteer in a hostel, and I stayed in that hostel. As much as you need to sleep in a dorm bed, that's where you really get the culture, because you're dealing with other Argentinians who are living there and working in the town, either as guides or chefs or whatever it is. And that's really the best way to travel nowadays. You know, the backpackers of yesterday are the volunteers of today. And so if you're a backpacker, you have to try the volunteering thing, because not only is it free, or at least significantly cheaper, your connection with the location is as close as my connection was to that glacier, feeling that I had that glacier to myself and I had to take my fucking life in my hands and cross that river. And that's how deep your fucking connection is when you're volunteering and staying in a place instead of just passing through for 2 days or one hike or two hikes. Just enjoy it and learn that the country count or city count, that doesn't fucking matter. What matters is your connection. So keep that in mind. Next week, we're coming out with more content. Obviously, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to start talking about yet, but stay tuned, because Toast is back, and it's back every single week, twice a week, with stories from all around the globe. So stay tuned, hit that fucking subscribe button, and share this shit.